Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Some, but not all of the guns are silent tonight in Lebanon. The ceasefire declared by Israel and Syria seems to be working. But heavy fighting is still going on between Israel and its other enemy, the Palestine Liberation Organization. Each says no ceasefire can exist between them. Most of the fighting is in the southern suburbs of Beirut. Early today, with the truce only moments away, Israeli warplanes took aim at targets in that city. CBS News correspondent Don Kladstrup, along with thousands of other people, was forced to take cover. Here is Kladstrup's report, the first of three from the war zone.
A half hour before the ceasefire was scheduled to take effect, the Israelis left a little reminder of what will happen if the truce doesn't work out. Waves of Israeli jets swept over the Lebanese capital, doing what they've done before with terrifying efficiency. It was the heaviest bombing of Palestinian strongholds in Beirut since the Israeli invasion began. Inside guerrilla camps, there was panic and confusion as people raced for underground shelters. A CBS News team was in the garage of a PLO building when bombs began falling on it. But even in underground shelters, safety could not be guaranteed. There are 4 minutes left before the ceasefire is to take effect. 4 minutes for the Israelis to finish what they're doing. The Israelis took advantage of every minute, but at noon sharp, the bombing stopped, and an eerie silence descended on the area. But it didn't last long. Palestinians began rocketing Israeli positions. There was heavy shelling in return. The PLO said it would consider a ceasefire, the one that was supposed to be in effect now, the one that seems destined for the same kind of fate that all others before it have met. Don Kladstrup, CBS News, Beirut.
These PLO Katyusha rockets fell harmlessly into the sea. Even so, Israel insists that it will chase, catch, and clobber suspected terrorists from the ground and from above. So this is what a ceasefire with the Syrians, but not the PLO, looked like in southern Lebanon. During the partial ceasefire, Israeli troops will keep going from rooftop to rooftop, from house to house, and from room to room. The task is as deliberate as it is dangerous. Israel's military command says it has smashed the PLO's military machine, has encircled its bases and bottled up its forces, but several thousand Palestinians are hiding and Israelis don't know where. Said one officer, "I think our job has just begun." The misery of those caught in the middle is also just beginning, and it too will continue during the ceasefire. Several hundred refugees near Sidon are now huddled in a plastic tent city waiting for the chaos around them to subside. Their seaside location is idyllic, nothing else is. By late afternoon, new fighting had broken out between Israelis and Palestinians near Beirut's international airport. Other reported clashes were few, erratic, and unpredictable. The partial ceasefire won't change any of that. And what has been dirty and ugly and painful here will not change either. Bob Paul, CBS News on the Israeli-Lebanese border.
Israeli guns in eastern Lebanon fell silent this afternoon. The artillery was covered over, but not withdrawn. When the gun smoke cleared, you could see some of Syria's Soviet-made battle tanks stopped by Israeli rockets. But there were Israeli tank losses here, too. Israel's jets downed 23 more Syrian planes in the final hours of fighting, according to a military spokesman. The Israelis now consider the ceasefire with Syria to be holding, but they are carefully watching Syrian troop movements further north, not about to be caught off guard.
If they will shoot, we will react. We hope that they will not. We don't have any intention whatsoever to continue with this war. We have accomplished our mission.
The Israelis gave President Reagan's special envoy, Philip Habib, details of their forward troop positions today in preparation for what they believe will be lengthy negotiations over a final settlement with Syria. The invasion has cost Israel over 100 lives so far, according to official figures. Prime Minister Begin mourned one of them today. Major General Yakuti al-Adam was but one of many who died in southern Lebanon in the name of peace for northern Galilee. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
Western diplomats in Damascus say that the Soviet Union apparently balked at helping Syria replace weapons lost in the fight against Israel, but Syria's leaders insist that they agreed to the ceasefire from a position of strength. Alan Pizzi is in Damascus.
To the Syrians, the battle in the Bekaa Valley has ended in a major Arab victory. The clashes there, shown by this Syrian television film, were reportedly among the fiercest of the invasion. Syria apparently threw everything it had into the battle. The Syrians managed to hold on, at considerable cost in men and materiel, to the vital Damascus to Beirut road through the Bekaa Valley. Syrian President Hafez Assad's agreement to the ceasefire is based on a demand for complete Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon. The deal announced today may have been finalized last night in a midnight meeting between Assad and U.S. Special Envoy Philip Habib. The performance of the Syrian troops against Israeli forces, while others offered only verbal backing to the Palestinians' fight for survival, has certainly enhanced Assad's position in the Arab world. And American efforts to maintain the fragile peace will now rest in large measure on Syria's attitude. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, Damascus.
In Beirut, international relief officials say thousands of civilians have been killed or wounded in the Lebanese fighting. At least 1,000 were reported killed in the city of Sidon alone.
Mrs. Johnson, when you need an antacid, think about salt. The Surgeon General's report says Americans get too much salt. So reach for Riopan Plus, a low-sodium antacid for fast relief. In laboratory tests, Riopan Plus neutralized acid in seconds, 4 times faster than equal amounts of the 2 leading liquids, and kept on working to neutralize excess acid. Doctors recommend Riopan Plus, a low-sodium antacid for fast relief. Riopan Plus.
Make it comfortable. Good.
That was comfortable.
I've been giving my daughter tips on driving, and here's another important one. If you drive a car, you need premium performance tires. So I put Bridgestone Super Filler radios on Leslie's car. The hard rubber Super Filler here lets the sidewall flex, so you get a big footprint of rubber for cornering, braking, handling, and comfort too.
They're comfortable, Pop, and they're performers.
That's right. You can feel it when you drive. Bridgestone Super Filler steel belted radios. See the yellow pages for a Bridgestone dealer near you.
President Reagan is arriving home tonight at Andrews Air Force Base, home from 10 days of summitry and pageantry in Europe and coping with 6 days of warfare in the Middle East. President Reagan is returning to a rousing reception, orchestrated both musically and politically. Tickets, buses, and memos calling for a big turnout help to guarantee one. Crowd estimate, at least 15,000. It was the end of a long day for Mr. Reagan, a day that also brought him to the place where East meets West and divides them. Bill Plant reports on President Reagan's appearance at the Berlin Wall.
Arriving this morning in Berlin, Mr. Reagan spoke to American troops at Tempelhof Airport. He took the offensive at once, saying that he'd like to ask the Soviets a question.
In fact, I may stuff the question in a bottle and throw it over the wall when I go there. I really want to hear their explanation. Why is that wall there?
The presidential limousine pulled up to the gate in the wall known as Checkpoint Charlie, and Mr. Reagan, his suit coat bulging from a protective vest, walked to the dividing line and jokingly threatened to put his foot over it. After a few minutes of posing and a lot of pictures, he was asked what he thought of the wall. He responded, "It's as ugly as the idea behind it." At Charlottenburg Palace, before a friendly crowd which police estimated at 27,000, the president pledged that the U.S. would continue to honor its commitment to Berlin. He challenged the Soviets to join in what he called a new Berlin initiative.
We challenge the men in the Kremlin to join with us in the quest for peace, security, and a lowering of the tensions and weaponry that could lead to future conflict.
Aides said later the new initiatives to be proposed soon are to build confidence between Washington and Moscow with better data on missile testing, and would include upgrading the hotline between the two capitals. Like all of the post-war U.S. presidents who have visited Berlin, Mr. Reagan saluted the character of the city and its people, echoing particularly John F. Kennedy.
Berlin bleibt doch Berlin. Berlin is still Berlin. We in America and in the West are still Berliners too, and always will be. And I am proud to say today that it is good to be home again.
Back in Bonn for departure ceremonies, the president termed his trip a great success. Some of his key aides were disappointed, however, that much of the trip was overshadowed by the rush of events, particularly the Israeli drive into Lebanon. Such events, over which the U.S. seems to have little control, fight the carefully constructed picture of presidential leadership. Bill Plant, CBS News, with the presidential party in Bonn.
West Germany's ultra-left said it would mark President Reagan's visit to West Berlin, and it did. Mark Phillips has more on their attempt to make this a day of rage and violence.
Police say more than 2,000 protesters, members of a coalition of extreme left-wing groups, were involved. They turned one of West Berlin's main intersections into a battle zone, charging police lines, pelting them with rocks and pavement stones. Riot police responded with water cannons and barrages of tear gas canisters. While part of the general anti-nuclear, anti-American movement here, West Berlin's young radicals are known to be the most extreme and often violent element in that movement. Today's rioting was in marked contrast to yesterday's massive but peaceful demonstrations in Bonn. The rioting continued after President Reagan's departure. Police moved in to break up the mob. They succeeded only in breaking it into smaller units and spreading it into Berlin's main shopping districts. Innocent shoppers were caught in waves of charging rioters, police, and tear gas. There were more than 200 arrests, more than 200 injuries, 40 requiring hospitalization. Mark Phillips, CBS News, West Berlin.
When this young executive bought a house, he looked in towns where the commuter trains were reliable. Smart. And when he bought a new car, he researched resale prices on the model he wanted. Smart. And today, he's placing the biggest order for plain paper copiers in his company's history. He chose Savin, the company with an extensive product line and the largest service network in the industry. Smart.
Let's end any confusion about new car coverage. They don't stand up to the tough Americans. Introducing Buyer Protection Plan 5, a 5-year, 50,000-mile virtual free ride over the repairs you fear most. 5-year trip interruption protection, 5-year no-rest-through warranty, loaner car assistance, plus a $500 price reduction on every American Motors Concorde, Spirit, Eagle, and SX4. Buyer Protection Plan 5 plus $500, only from American Motors.
Pope John Paul II today flew from the Roman summer into the Argentine winter. During his stay in Britain last week, the Pope met with the Queen, but went out of his way not to meet with top British political officials because of the Falklands War. Top Argentine officials, however, were very much in evidence on this trip. Richard Roth is in Buenos Aires.
It was Argentine President Galtieri helping with the umbrella as the pontiff stated the theme of his 30-hour visit here. Quoting from the Bible, the Pope said, "I give you the peace the world cannot give you." John Paul described his mission here as pastoral, a message to be hammered home in 6 speeches on Argentine soil. But Vatican officials conceded from the start the trip would have some political aspects. Their aim was to keep them as neutral as possible. At Metropolitan Cathedral, the Pope said he had come here to pray for peace and for what he called a dignified and just solution to the conflict in the South Atlantic. And in a clear reference to his past criticism of human rights violations in Argentina, the pontiff worried aloud that the previous situation, as he put it, is being made worse by war. He preached here for reconciliation. The stop at church was followed immediately by a lavishly staged meeting with Argentina's ruling junta, a ceremony Argentine officials said could be compared with the meeting last week between the Pope and the Queen of England. But even as he prepared to leave Buenos Aires for the highlight of his trip, an outdoor celebration of Mass at the National Shrine of the Virgin of Luján, some Vatican officials were expressing concern that political symbols could overshadow spiritual ones. In Argentina, the Virgin of Luján holds the honorary rank of Captain General of the military. Richard Roth, CBS News, Buenos Aires.
British forces reportedly have intercepted radio messages from the besieged Argentine commander at Stanley, the Falklands capital. The BBC says the messages from General Mario Menendez indicate morale is low. And General Menendez is quoted as saying his forces could crumble quickly in a British attack. There's been no further word on the extent of British casualties from Argentine airstrikes 3 days ago. But for survivors of earlier Argentine attacks, the long journey home on the luxury cruiser QE2 ended today in Southampton. Martha Teichner was there.
She was back 30 days and 14,000 miles after she left, bringing the survivors of the Coventry, the Ardent, and the Antelope, 629 of them, home, safe. From dockside and deck, the same excitement.
Just can't wait to see him and touch him, you know, to get him home.
But before they could say hello, the survivors had to say goodbye. The crews and officers of the 3 lost ships are being split up.
You know, every captain always says his men are the best. I certainly believe mine were. I'm just devastated that I can't be with them anymore. I'm sorry, I can't.
For officers and seamen alike, there was time aboard the QE2 to adjust to the loss of ships and men.
Gave us time in the QE2 to talk about the whole thing, which we haven't minded doing, because it's been got out of our system.
Did people talk about it a lot, what had happened?
Yes, we're talking about it today, but it doesn't seem as bad as it was then.
Reunions were private, but afterwards, survivors and their families ran a gauntlet of sorts of clapping, friendly well-wishers. Today was a day for forgetting nightmares. Martha Teichner, CBS News, Southampton.
I'm chewing gum again. It's wonderful. For years I couldn't because gum stuck to my dental work, but now there's Freedent gum. It doesn't stick, so I can enjoy all the pleasures of chewing gum again. The delicious flavor, fresh, clean breath, and refreshing taste, all that's possible again with Freedent gum from Wrigley's. It comes in peppermint and spearmint. You'll love it.
Feel free to chew Freedent.
It won't stick to most dental work.
Freedent gum.
Honey, breakfast!
Great coffee.
Yeah, it's Maxwell House Master Blend.
Oh, isn't that supposed to save us money?
Mm-hmm. It only tastes expensive.
Master Blend, a special blend of 100% coffee we make a special way so you can save money. Master Blend, it only tastes expensive.
The Labor Department today said wholesale prices remained unchanged in May, and so for the first 5 months of the year, inflation at the wholesale level rose at an annual rate of only 0.4%. No one expects that to last, but today's report does bolster predictions that wholesale price inflation for the year will be well below last year's 7%. The federal government and the state of Florida settled out of court today on how best to resettle thousands of Cuban and Haitian refugees. The Federal Department of Health and Human Services will grant Florida more than $31 million for a variety of refugee services. A common market spokesman in Europe raised the possibility of a trade war after the U.S. Commerce Department today said 9 foreign governments have illegally subsidized steel exports to this country. This preliminary decision means U.S. importers of steel from those countries must post cash or bond equal to the estimated subsidies, as much as $240 a ton on about 20% of all steel imports. 7 of the accused governments are common market countries, and their spokesman said, "I don't like to talk trade wars, but we are obviously in a very tense situation." However, a Commerce Department official in Washington said, What we have done is guarantee to American steelworkers they don't have to compete against any element of subsidization. Now for a piece of commentary. In his commentary from Bonn tonight, Bill Moyers has an assessment of President Reagan's trip to Europe and how the best-laid plans of presidents and ministers don't always follow the script, even when it's written well in advance.
The 16 nations of NATO ended their meeting with a communique which had been drafted before the leaders arrived in Bonn. Reading it, you think of the dialogue between two characters in a play. "Where shall we go?" asks one, and the other answers, "On." NATO has agreed to go on. This may seem a small pie to have been baked by so many chefs, but given the strains in and out of this alliance, it's a wonder the 16 ever made it to the kitchen. They did so for the reason most of us go to family reunions despite the encounter we expect with the uncle of loudmouth and offensive opinions. Either you work at the basic ties that bind, or they unravel. No one has worked harder this week than Mr. Reagan. His speech to the German parliament may have been the best since he took office. Not only has he impressed his colleagues here with his exercise of the political arts, but he won their support for his arms control strategy toward the Soviet Union. On many other issues, the Allies left town still disagreeing, evidence of debates to come. The Middle East is one of them. Mrs. Thatcher was angry over reports Israel is helping Argentina buy arms, and Mr. Reagan was upset over the timing of Israel's invasion of Lebanon and its scope. Europeans say Mr. Begin exploits the powerful Jewish vote in U.S. politics to act without fear of American disavowal. They tell you his extremism threatens their oil from the Persian Gulf, more important to Europe than to us. This fear is why during the Arab-Israeli War in 1973, 15 of the NATO countries would not allow U.S. planes with supplies for Israel to land at their airfields. It was informative to listen to so much corridor talk about a small nation far away. The ministers here were at the mercy of events beyond their control. This is not easy on people whose empires once governed large portions of the globe. No one runs the world anymore, but no one here wanted to admit it. I'm Bill Moyers in Bonn.
America on the move, on the tire Michelin pioneered, the Radial. We are moving thousands of trucks and trailers. We are delivering produce and flowers and school children. We are taking people to work, to shop, to play. We are pushing, hauling, carrying, scraping. When America demands performance, we deliver. We are Michelin, and we put America on radials.
Hello. I like this Remington microscreen rechargeable shaver so much, I bought the company. It shaves as close as a blade, or I'll give you your money back. The first microscreen is so thin it shaves incredibly close. The second even closer. And Remington's American-made. It costs less. Norelco's imported. It costs much more. The Remington microscreen rechargeable shaver shaves as close as a blade, or your money back. And the Lady Remington, the perfect gift, also with a money-back guarantee.
One person shot dead, 4 others wounded, more than 30 injured in a fire. Detroit police said that was the toll today after a man with a sawed-off shotgun opened fire in his lawyer's office. Then, as Frank Courier reports from Chicago, the Detroit gunman set off a firebomb.
Thick smoke poured from the 8th floor windows of the downtown office building as workers leaned to reach fire rescue ladders and climb down to safety. At least 2 of the 34 people injured had fallen from window ledges, trying to escape a gunman, identified by police as 35-year-old Bob Harrington. Witnesses say Harrington was angered by a law firm's refusal to issue him an insurance check. He allegedly opened fire with a sawed-off shotgun, took hostages, and set fire to an adjoining library. Among those wounded in the hour-long shooting spree was the gunman's attorney, Edward Bell, a former Detroit judge. As other wounded office workers were rushed to awaiting ambulances, those who had been rescued already were reunited. The gunman is in police custody. Frank Courier, CBS News, Chicago.
A Boston fire official today said, "It's been a terrible evening, the worst in my 31 years' experience." He spoke after as many as 30 fires raced across the city last night. 4 of the fires were labeled suspicious. 2 minor injuries were reported as firefighters from at least a dozen neighboring communities helped more than 200 Boston firefighters. As you may have heard, there's a fight tonight for the heavyweight championship of the world. It is expected to reward each fighter with $7 to $10 million. the richest sports prize ever. It is the latest chapter in a history that stretches back 6,000 years to the introduction of boxing by the Egyptians. And as Harold Dow reports, the elements in that history are changeless.
It's the story of the champ, the challenger, and the kid. A story as old as boxing and as new as this year's crop of ghetto youngsters. In this corner, the champ, Larry Holmes, 6'3", 215 pounds. Here, the challenger, Jerry Cooney, 6'7", 222. And here is Javier Bravo, 4'4", 85 pounds, 11 years old. Like countless kids from the slums, he wants to be a winner.
I like because I want people to know me and people to be interested in me.
And you want to do that through fighting?
Yes.
Javier Bravo may be younger than most, but his dream is a popular one. Across America, the gyms are crowded these days, more young boxers than ever, spurred on by the Hollywood fight movies and by visions of the millions a Holmes or Cooney can make.
We get about 10 new kids a day. I would say probably 1 out of 100 make it, if that.
It has never been an easy game. Jerry Cooney warns newcomers about that.
Young kids that get into it thinking about the money, they will get discouraged because it's not, you know, you watch a fight on TV, it looks easy, but it's not easy.
Ask Larry Holmes, the champ, about boxing, and the answer is blunt.
Better than being on welfare. You know, it's a way out. You know, it's something that you can take all your anger out on, a bag or somebody.
Marcelina Bravo hopes that for her son, Javier, fighting will indeed be a ticket out of the converted garage where the family lives in Los Angeles. Just about every day, after 5th grade is over, Javier Bravo takes the bus from the 20th Street School through the scarred and battered streets to another world. He has been doing this for 3 years, since he was 8. Javier is good. They all say that. In Mexico, Javier could fight professionally in just 2 more years. Many teenagers do, and their brains are scrambled by the time they're 20. Everyone is pulling for Javier, but fight people are realistic about the odds.
I don't know. I just, you know, I hope it works out for him. I would say about 50-50.
Matter of surviving.
That's right.
1 minute, champ.
So Larry Holmes and Jerry Cooney get ready for the big fight in Las Vegas, and Javier Bravo dreams of becoming champ. He doesn't know much about the odds. 5th graders don't. Harold Dow, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Friday. Dan Rather reporting from New York and wishing you a good weekend.
We're afraid to go out at night. The streets just aren't safe anymore. If the cars and trucks don't get us, the fleas and ticks will. But now, there's the Hart's 2-in-1 Plus Nighttime Safety Reflecting Collar. The first flea and tick-killing collar that reflects oncoming car headlights. Nighttime safety, plus it kills fleas and ticks round the clock for 5 months. The Hart's 2-in-1 Plus Reflecting Collar. Now the famous Hart's flea and tick killer can be a lifesaver, too.
This is a muscle tension headache about to happen. Muscles tense. Press on nerves until muscle tension headache.
Got any Anacin?
Take Anacin for muscle tension headache pain. Compared with regular headache tablets, Anacin has 23% more pain reliever, plus an extra ingredient. Anacin gives fast relief of muscle tension headache pain, so you can feel yourself again. Anacin relieves muscle tension headache pain fast.
Tomorrow on CBS Sports Saturday, a championship rematch for the WBA Junior Featherweight Championship. Plus, try again. Athletes, their success and failure. Tomorrow.
This is CBS.
A Nashville family does not know why somebody is attacking their home. Attacks that are leaving them virtual prisoners behind barricades. We'll have that story, and we'll also have a tour of Elvis Presley's Graceland Mansion, which opened to the public this week, coming up next on Eyewitness News.
Office Furniture Warehouse. You've heard about it, and believe me, it's for real. Come see for yourself. Office Furniture Warehouse has about everything you need for your office. And best of all, it's cash and carry warehouse priced. And look at the selection. Why pay fancy showroom prices? At Office Furniture Warehouse, you'll get what you want and save money.